Hey Watershed Watch participants, we're going to test some physical parameters of the Boise River. Physical parameters are incredibly important for us understanding the health of the river. When we test physical parameters, we test things like temperature, so how hot and cold the river is. We test the turbidity, or how clear the water is. We can also test how wide the river is and how fast is the river flowing. We're going to ask you to do all of these tests during Watershed Watch. So the first physical measurements we're going to have you take are the surroundings that you're testing in. So you're going to use your Watershed Watch notebook, just like the one I have, and you're going to make observations about the weather. So what is the weather like? You're going to make observations about the air temperature. So is it hot or is it cold outside? Then you're going to look at the water color. So does it look oily? Does it look brown? Does it look green? You're going to look at the stream flow. So is the stream flowing really high or is it flowing nice and gentle? Then you're going to look at the habitat. So what kind of habitat do we have here at the site you're testing? And then you're going to look for a few other things like the algae that might be growing in the water or growing on the substrate in the water. Or you might look and see, could you see any wildlife that's living in this section of the Boise River? So right now we're going to test temperature. Temperature is really important for the health of the river. We have a river that generally needs to be cold. So organisms like trout and other cold water organisms, they need nice, cold, clear water. And we're going to test the temperature to see, is this water cold enough for fish like trout? And so what we're going to use is, this is a handy little temperature gauge right here. And when I let it sit in the water for a minute, it will give me an accurate reading of the temperature. So I take this temperature gauge and I put it in the water about 4 inches underneath the water. And I'm going to hold it there for 1 minute. All right, so now that I've held this for 1 minute, you'll see that the 16 degrees Celsius here has turned blue. That means my temperature measurement is 16 degrees Celsius. And we'll record that. We'll do it 3 times that we have triplicates, and then we'll check and see, is that a healthy temperature for this time of season for the trout that live in the Boise River. The next physical parameter that we're going to measure is turbidity. Now, scientists measure turbidity using what's called a Secchi disk. If we were in a lake or an ocean, we would have a really big Secchi disk that we would lower into the water. But since we're at a stream, we have to use what's called a turbidity tube. So this turbidity tube has a tiny little Secchi disk on the bottom, and you can kind of see it there. And what we're going to do is we're going to fill this tube with water from the Boise River. You'll notice that the bottom of the tube, there's this little tube coming out, and there's this little clip that's stopping the water from exiting the tube. So we're going to fill this up in the river. How we do it is you just kind of put it on its side and fill it up. Just like that. Now, we have about 60 centimeters of water in our tube, and we're going to see, can we look down the tube and see our Secchi disk? So yes, so since we can see the Secchi disk at the bottom of the tube, we know that this water is at least 60 centimeters of visibility. If we couldn't see the Secchi disk at the bottom of this tube, what we would do is we would use our clip and we would release some of the water, just like this, until we could see it. So we would sit here and we would release water and then stop right when we can see the Secchi disk. And then our measurement would be, in this case, our measurement would be about 52 centimeters. So that is how we take a turbidity reading. After we record it, we'll be able to transfer these centimeters into units we call NTU, or nephelometric turbidity units. And these units help us understand how clear or how dirty the water is. So after testing these physical parameters, we should have a better idea of the health of this section of the Boise River. Remember, we want this river to be healthy for the organisms that live there. So for an organism like trout, they need cold, clear water that has really good habitat. And that's what we're looking for when we're testing the physical parameters on the Boise River.